The arrest already happened. The court doors closed. And then something worse followed. Silence. No music. No confessional. No clear explanation. Cameras stayed close, yet the loudest moments vanished. This was the second everything changed, not during flashing lights, but after, when viewers noticed whole emotions missing, footage jumped. Scenes felt trimmed. Reactions looked muted. A mother faced separation from her kids, yet the screen rushed past the pain. Faces showed shock, but words never landed. The absence felt heavy. Too heavy for coincidence. Someone decided what pain deserved airtime and what pain stayed hidden. Behind those edits sat a family spiraling in private. Calls unanswered. Doors closed. A house full of reminders with no laughter. Viewers sensed a gap between what happened and what aired. Social feeds filled with the same whisper. Something serious got cut. Reality television sells access. Yet access stopped right when stakes peaked. That choice shapes public judgment. That choice controls sympathy. That choice protects someone or something from blame. Receipts exist. Crew members saw more. Family felt more. Audiences received fragments. The line between documenting life and shaping a story snapped quietly, and while cameras kept recording, something fragile cracked beyond repair. Before all this darkness, the show felt different. Early seasons leaned on weight loss goals, awkward jokes, and family chaos with heart. Viewers tuned in for messy kitchens, blunt humor, and small wins. Progress felt slow but hopeful. The tone invited laughs even during struggle. You watched siblings argue, then hug, then move forward. Nothing felt dangerous. Episodes once framed hardship as part of growth. Setbacks showed up, then lessons followed. Fans expected bumps, not breakdowns. The rhythm stayed familiar. A rough week led to a pep talk. A bad weigh-in led to resolve. The vibe stayed light enough to keep faith alive. Many thought the story stayed on track, then subtle shifts crept in. Scenes felt shorter. Reactions felt rushed. Emotional moments ended fast. Conversations cut away early. Something felt off even before headlines hit. Fans sensed tension without clear cause. Social chatter grew uneasy. People rewatched episodes and spotted odd gaps. Jokes landed flatter. Smiles felt forced. You thought the show stayed about progress, weight loss, growth, family pushing through. That belief created comfort. Comfort breeds trust. Trust lowers guard. When trouble surfaced later, shock hit harder. Since warning signs hid behind routine storytelling, family chaos once felt harmless. Now, those same patterns read differently. Raised voices no longer felt playful. Silence carried weight. Editing choices stood out more. The tone no longer matched past seasons. Viewers missed warmth without knowing why. Those early episodes trained audiences to expect recovery. That training mattered. When events turned serious, many stayed unprepared. The shift did not start with sirens or courtrooms. The shift started earlier, in small choices, clipped scenes, and emotional shortcuts. The warning signs were already there. Hiding in plain sight, the story stopped moving forward and started falling outward. Progress faded. Consequences took center stage. The arrest did not arrive out of nowhere. Warning signs stacked quietly over time. Missed routines, short tempers, emotional exhaustion. Weight loss stalled, yet emotional pressure grew heavier each week. Earlier seasons measured change through numbers. Pounds lost, goals hit, smiles earned. Now the scale mattered less. Emotional weight pressed harder. Fear replaced motivation. Survival replaced ambition. Family reactions showed up in fragments rather than full conversations. One sibling shut down, another snapped. Someone else stayed silent. No speeches, no lessons wrapped neatly at the end. The arrest landed as an outcome, not a twist. Viewers sensed build-up long before headlines hit. That context matters. Reality television often frames chaos as surprise. Here, chaos brewed slowly. Choices piled up. Stress piled higher. Cameras kept pace, but context slipped away. Scenes ended early. Explanations stayed thin. Fallout appeared without full setup. Family members responded in pieces. One moment showed anger. Another showed numbness. Support arrived late or off-screen. The absence spoke louder than tears. Growth narratives faded. Consequence narratives took over. This shift altered how viewers interpreted every look and pause. Past behavior gained new meaning. Production choices shaped perception. Focus narrowed. Legal facts stayed vague. Emotional reactions trimmed. The story leaned away from accountability and toward ambiguity. Viewers received enough to stay hooked, yet not enough to understand fully. Curiosity replaced clarity. Discomfort replaced entertainment. Someone noticed the shift early. Subtle concern appeared before public fallout. A glance held longer. A comment landed sharper. Worry replaced humor. Those moments passed quickly on screen, yet lingered afterward. The family felt pressure long before viewers connected dots. This phase marked a turning point. Growth arcs require patience. Consequence arcs demand honesty. The show leaned toward fragments rather than full truths. Emotional weight overwhelmed physical goals. Progress paused. Fallout began. Someone inside the family saw this coming and lacked power to stop the slide. After the arrest, the center of the story went quiet. Not dramatic. Quiet. Not suspenseful silence. The kind that feels heavy because something essential is missing. Tammy Slaton, once the emotional anchor of 100 sisters, began to disappear in plain sight. On screen, her presence thinned. Scenes shortened. Reactions felt delayed or muted. She appeared less often in group moments, and when she did, she spoke less. The routines that once structured her days vanished. No appointments. No playful check-ins. No familiar rhythm that grounded her. The show didn't explain this shift. It simply moved around it. What stood out most was absence. Her children, once central to her motivation and identity on the show, were suddenly no longer there. Their names were mentioned, then avoided. Toys appeared in the background without context. Rooms felt quieter. The camera lingered just long enough for viewers to notice something was wrong, then cut away before questions could form. Amy's behavior shifted in small, observable ways. Her posture closed in. Eye contact faded. She answered questions briefly, sometimes with a nod instead of words. Laughter, once automatic, became rare. When emotion surfaced, it wasn't explosive. It was restrained, held back. As if expressing too much might cost her something she could no longer afford to lose. There were moments when it felt like she wanted to speak, but didn't. Conversations ended early. Confessionals felt truncated. The editing moved quickly past her reactions, as though lingering would reveal more than intended. Viewers noticed the pacing change. Emotional beats that once unfolded slowly were now compressed into seconds. Isolation reshaped everything. Without her usual support system visible on screen, Amy appeared untethered. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just removed. Even in group settings, she seemed separate, sitting slightly apart, responding late, reacting after others had already moved on. Silence replaced humor. Stillness replaced energy. Fans began to sense gaps. Not because of what was shown, but because of what wasn't. Scenes felt incomplete. Emotional transitions happened off camera. The story jumped forward without explanation. It created the unsettling impression that important moments existed somewhere else, just beyond the edit. Nothing about this portrayal felt performative. If anything, it felt constrained, as though the show was carefully stepping around something fragile. Amy's voice, once central to the series, softened into the background. Her story continued, but without the fullness it once had, and that's what made it hurt more. The most painful moments weren't dramatic breakdowns or confrontations. They were the quiet gaps, the unanswered reactions, the sense that something deeply personal was unfolding while viewers were only allowed to see the edges. The moments that carried the most weight were the ones that never made it to air. Something fell off, and viewers couldn't quite name it at first. It wasn't one big missing scene. It was a pattern. Conversations that ended too soon. Emotional reactions that cut away mid-beat. Scenes that jumped forward as if time had been erased. The show kept moving, but the connective tissue was gone. Fans started noticing how often the edit protected silence instead of explaining it. A question would be asked, then answered off-screen. A reaction would begin, then vanish into the next scene. Microphones stayed on, but moments were muted. What should have lingered dissolved quickly, leaving emotional whiplash behind. Online, discussion shifted. Not outrage at first, curiosity. Viewers compared episodes, replayed scenes, pointed out where pacing changed abruptly. Why did this moment feel rushed? Why did that conversation never finish? Why did such a massive life event receive so little emotional space? The absence became louder than anything shown. Speculation followed, framed cautiously. Fans weren't claiming facts. They were asking questions. Was footage removed? Were scenes cut to protect someone? Or to protect the network? Theories ranged from ethical concern to image control. What mattered most wasn't which theory was true, but why so many people felt something had been withheld. The edit began to feel defensive. Emotional peaks flattened. Context trimmed away. Viewers weren't given room to sit with discomfort. Instead, the show redirected focus, filling space with safer storylines. That choice only heightened suspicion. Reality television relies on trust. Once viewers sense manipulation, even subtle, every cut becomes suspect. What made this different from typical reality editing was the subject matter. This wasn't petty drama or manufactured conflict. It involved real consequences, family separation, emotional distress. When those moments disappear, it raises ethical questions, not accusations. Questions. Where is the line between documenting reality and exploiting pain? And who draws it when cameras are already rolling? The lack of answers created tension. Silence invited interpretation. Each missing scene felt intentional, even if it wasn't. Viewers began reading between frames, assuming the unseen carried more truth than what aired. The edit didn't calm the audience. It unsettled them. Then came whispers that the silence wasn't mutual. That someone close to the center of the story noticed what was being removed. That the discomfort wasn't just online. Someone inside the family pushed back. As the noise around Amy faded, another presence grew sharper on screen. Tammy Slaton stopped reacting the old way. Less yelling, fewer blow-ups, more pauses. That change mattered. Tammy had spent years framed as the volatile one. Now she watched quietly while everything cracked around her. Guilt sat heavy. Not performative guilt. The kind that shows up in clenched jaws and unfinished sentences. Tammy spoke slower. She chose words carefully. When others filled silence with jokes or deflection, she didn't follow. She looked tired of the format, tired of scenes shaped for comfort. Protective energy replaced chaos. On screen, tension shifted. Tammy didn't attack. She resisted. She corrected small details. She pushed back on framing. Not loudly, firmly. When conversations cut short, her body language carried what the edit skipped. Folded arms. Long stares. Silence held longer than expected. That restraint signaled refusal to play along. Fans noticed. Tammy stopped giving production easy moments. No big reactions. No explosive sound bites. She limited access to her emotions. That choice disrupted the rhythm of the show. Reality television feeds on extremes. Tammy offered boundaries instead. Psychologically, the shift tracked. When people sense harm nearby, instincts change. Protection overrides performance. Tammy looked like someone choosing family over storyline. Not heroic, human. She appeared aware that anything said might be reshaped later. That awareness tightens speech. Contracts complicate everything. Cast members agree to film. They do not control final cuts. They cannot clarify missing context once episodes air. Silence becomes the only safe response. Tammy's restraint felt intentional. Say less. Give fewer angles to. Edit. Hold the line quietly. Moments hinted at friction beyond the sisters. Scenes where Tammy seemed to wait for permission to finish thoughts. Glances toward crew before speaking. Pauses where honesty might cost more than silence. The show framed her calm as growth. Viewers read something else. Resistance. This was no sister rivalry. Amy wasn't the target. Tammy's frustration aimed outward. At the machine shaping the narrative. At choices about what pain stayed visible. At what got softened for viewers. The conflict shifted lanes. Not drama between family members. A standoff between truth and control. The silence from the network spoke without words. TLC did not issue statements tied to emotions or family impact. Episodes aired. Promos rolled. The machine stayed steady. That calm felt deliberate. Not proof of wrongdoing. A signal of how systems protect brands. Reality television runs on risk control. When real life turns unstable, caution takes over. Editors shorten scenes. Executives weigh backlash. Lawyers review cuts. None of that requires bad intent. It requires self-preservation. Silence lowers exposure. Silence reduces liability. Silence keeps schedules intact. Viewers expect honesty. Networks allow structure. Those goals clash during crisis. Audiences want context. Networks want containment. The result lands somewhere uncomfortable. Emotional truths get trimmed. Messy moments lose oxygen. Stories flatten. Not to deceive, but to manage. Ethics live in gray zones here. Filming consent exists on paper. Emotional consent shifts daily. A cast member might agree to film one week and crumble the next. Cameras do not pause for readiness. Systems are built for output, not care. Responsibility spreads thin across producers, editors, executives. No single villain steps forward. Accountability dissolves. Silence also shapes narrative control. When no one explains edits, viewers fill gaps. Speculation grows. Trust erodes. The absence of clarity invites harsher interpretation than transparency ever would. That irony sits at the core of the issue. Saying less often says more. Brands survive by avoiding comment during storms. Fans read avoidance as indifference. Both reactions stem from the same place, protection. The cost shows up later. Audience. Loyalty weakens. Emotional credibility takes hits. Reality loses texture. The show continued. Storylines pivoted. Lighter scenes padded. Heavier truths. The family carried weight off screen. The network carried none publicly. That imbalance lingered, and while executives stayed quiet, the public did not. Reaction sharpened. Judgment turned ruthless. The next wave hit harder than edits ever could. Social media turned the volume all the way up. Once episodes aired, comment sections flooded fast. Opinions hardened within minutes. Some fans defended, others attacked. Middle ground disappeared. And the loudest voices rose to the top, not the most thoughtful ones. Tammy Slaton has publicly acknowledged feeling the weight of online reaction before. Not in dramatic speeches, in small comments, in pauses, in visible awareness that people were talking about her life as if it were fiction. Screens do not soften words, they sharpen them. Every scroll delivers judgment without tone or context. Comment culture rewards extremes. Sympathy gets fewer likes than outrage. Nuance sinks. Hot takes travel faster than care. Fans start performing morality for strangers. Callouts stack. Labels stick. Amy did not need to search hard to find criticism. It followed her. Fame removes exits. Silence online feels suspicious. Speaking invites more noise. The pressure compounds. When someone already faces loss, routine disruption, public scrutiny becomes a force multiplier. Comments replay in the mind. Strangers speculate on motives. Armchair verdicts replace curiosity. The person at the center loses control of narrative again, this time without producers or editors. Algorithms decide reach. What made this wave harsher was timing. Viewers filled gaps left by edits. Missing context became fuel. Without full scenes, people assumed worst intent. Silence from official channels left fans policing each other. Empathy fractured along loyalty lines. Support felt conditional. Public statements from Amy showed awareness of backlash, not defiance. Fatigue showed more than anger. Being watched during joy is one thing. Being watched during collapse strips safety. Every misstep feels permanent online. Screenshots live forever. Forgiveness expires fast. Outrage spreads because it feels active. Care requires patience. Platforms reward speed. Reaction beats reflection. That imbalance turns comment sections into pressure cookers. Heat rises. Relief never vents. By this stage, the show stopped feeling like a safe container for real life. Cameras captured fragments. Edits softened edges. Social media sharpened knives. Family members faced scrutiny from all sides. No space remained for quiet repair. The question shifted. Not who was right or wrong. Whether this environment could hold anyone gently at all. Later episodes carried a different weight. Not loud, not dramatic, subdued. One OOLB sisters stopped feeling loose and spontaneous. Conversations shortened. Answers came clipped. Smiles looked practiced. Laughter arrived late or not at all. Something essential shifted. Cast members spoke carefully. Words felt filtered before leaving mouths. The chaos, once framed as charm, faded into caution. Scenes ended faster. Emotional beats flattened. No one lingered in discomfort. Survival mode replaced vulnerability. That change read clearly on screen. Audiences sensed it. Not through plot twists, but through energy. Reality television thrives on messiness. Here, messiness withdrew. What remained felt controlled, guarded. The show still aired moments of connection, but something was missing. Trust had thinned. When trust breaks, behavior adapts. People protect themselves. They reveal less. They stop reacting freely. The camera becomes a risk, not a witness. That shift alters everything. Stories lose texture. Relationships appear distant. Emotional honesty retreats. Viewers notice the gap. Comment sections reflected confusion. Episodes felt shorter even when runtime stayed same. Emotional arcs cut off early. The show seemed unsure where to rest its focus. Light moments felt heavier by contrast. Silence carried meaning. This stage marked a turning point, not dramatic, permanent. Once participants stop believing a space is safe, authenticity erodes. Reality turns performative again, but hollow. Audiences feel that loss, even if they cannot name it. What disappears first is ease. What follows is connection. What remains is content without heart. Filming ends. Episodes wrap. Contracts complete. The cost surfaces later, after cameras power down. Damage does not roll credits when episodes end. There was no reset button. No clean episode ending where lessons land and music swells. The fallout lingered without shape. Tammy Slaton did not receive a redemption arc. The family did not get a reunion moment wrapped in hope. Life moved forward unevenly. Consequences stayed. Reality television trains viewers to expect closure. Growth montage, confession, apology. This time, none arrived. Emotional threads hung loose. Relationships felt altered in ways cameras could not fix. The absence of resolution felt unsettling because it mirrored real life. Damage does not line up neatly for broadcast schedules. Off camera, healing looks quiet, private, slow, no timestamps, no edits. Viewers never see most of it, yet viewers still carry opinions formed from fragments. That creates tension. Judgment lands without full context. Sympathy feels earned or withheld based on partial stories. Watching becomes participation. The show shifted from documenting change to showcasing aftermath. Not by choice, by circumstance. That pivot exposed limits of the format. When pain runs deeper than plot, entertainment tools fail. Confessionals feel thin. Humor rings hollow. Silence grows heavier than dialogue. A broader reckoning emerges here. Not about one family, about the genre itself. Reality television thrives on access. Trauma complicates access. When suffering becomes content, ethics blur. Viewers feel discomfort, then keep watching. Complicity sneaks in quietly. What do audiences owe people whose worst days air for ratings? No simple answer. Empathy costs nothing. Restraint costs attention. Curiosity fuels clicks. Care asks for pause. Each viewer decides where to land. The absence of closure forces reflection. Not who won, not who failed, but what was taken once boundaries dissolved. Trust, privacy, safety. Some losses never return. The next chapter moves beyond scales and episodes, beyond ratings, charts, and promo cycles. The story now asks harder questions about care, about limits, about what entertainment should never consume. The hardest part to accept sits in the quiet. Cameras caught faces, scenes, fragments. The real damage unfolded off screen, in the hours after filming wrapped, in the spaces where no edit could soften impact. What aired looked controlled. What followed felt anything but. Reality television promises access, not protection. Viewers saw enough to form opinions, not enough to understand consequences. A family absorbed shock in private while the public debated clips. That gap never closed. It widened. Silence filled it. This story lingers because it resists comfort. No villain speech. No tidy growth arc. Just people adjusting to loss under a spotlight they did not fully control. The show moved on. Episodes aired. Life stayed complicated. The question left behind cuts deeper than gossip. When does watching become taking? When does curiosity cross into harm? Those lines blur fast when ratings reward exposure and platforms reward outrage. The genre rarely slows down to ask where the cost lands. What happened here echoes beyond one family. Across reality TV, similar patterns repeat. Love stories collapse under contracts. Immigration stress turns into plot. Mental strain gets framed as drama. 90 Day Fiancé has faced moments where private breakdowns collided with public consumption in similar ways. Different cast, same machine. The cameras captured plenty. Tears, arguments, confessions. The damage happened elsewhere. In trust lost. In safety gone. In people learning too late that not every truth survives exposure. The next story in this genre pushes that line even further. And the cost rises again.